Today we are going to read a narrative nonfiction story about how someone who lived through the San Francisco earthquake. A narrative nonfiction is a true event that is told through a fictional story using characters, setting, and a plot. Let's begin by going over the vocabulary words, as it is best to read the entire story from beginning to end without stopping at each page. The first word is restless, and that would be not being able to sit or stay in one spot. So if you're restless, that means you just can't sit still. You're always moving around. Rumbling, a low rolling noise. So it says, what is one reason your stomach might make a rumbling, low rumbling? It's a low rolling noise. The next word we have is shatter. To break suddenly into many little pieces. So if something shatters, it breaks into pieces. The next word we have is immediately. Right away or at that moment. If you do something immediately, you do it right then. Intact. Whole or complete, not broken or pulled apart. Okay, so if something is tacked, that is not pulled apart. The last word is collapse, to fall down or give way. So if it collapses, that means the bottom or the base of it would give away. At this time, please stop the video and fill in the definitions for these words and also complete the rest of the sections for these vocabulary words. Now we're going to look at the key idea questions first and highlight the important parts of the question, so as we begin to read the story, we'll be able to figure out what we're looking for as we're reading. So the first question is, what happens that makes Henry hold his dog tight? So we have to look at the section that says Henry holds his dog tight. When we come to that part of the story, we're going to stop and do our best to figure out what's happening before that happens in the story. What do the words thud, thud, thud in paragraph 6 help the reader imagine? Okay, so we're looking at the word thud, thud, thud. When we come to paragraph 6, that's going to be an indication that we need to stop at paragraph 6 and think about, what do those words make us think? The next question is, why is Henry trapped in his room? So we know that when we come to the part where Henry is trapped in his room, we want to know the why. What's going on before and after that happened? The next one is paragraph 4. Henry was not worried about the earthquake. If you were Henry, would you be worried now? Use the text evidence to support your response. So I would have to think about, I want to know, think about the idea that Henry was not worried. And then the question is asking, would you be worried? Okay, the next one is, how does the earthquake destroy the neighborhood? So when I'm at the end of the story, I want to think about how the earthquake destroyed the neighborhood. So I want to think about what it looked like, what happened to the neighborhood, the houses around it, and what was going on. Next, I want to think about, why does Henry squeeze his eyes shut? Okay, so when Henry squeezes his eyes shut, I want to think about what is happening before that and during. Okay, before and during will help me decide why he's doing that. So we want to think about what Henry is doing during or before that happens as to why he is shutting his eyes. We also want to think about making sure that we include the evidence from the text to support that answer. Now let's read the story and keep in mind the questions that we're looking for the answers in the story as we're reading. The Earth Dragon Awakes, the San Francisco Earthquake of 1906 by Lawrence Yep. The Earth Dragon Awakes is based on actual events of the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. This novel tells about the experiences of two young friends, Henry and Chin. The earthquake destroyed many buildings, after huge fires erupted and damaged most of the city. This part of the story begins as the shaking starts at Henry's house. Henry is in his room with his dog, Sawyer. 5:12 a.m., Wednesday, April 18th, 1906. Travis household, Sacramento Street area. Sawyer had been restless the whole evening. He whimpers all the time. He keeps waking his master. Henry does not sleep well either. It is twilight, just before dawn. Sawyer lets out a howl. Henry sits up and tries to calm his pet. Everything's all right, boy. Around him is the same boring room, the same bureau, the same bookcase, the same desk. Then he sees the gleam of his new roller skates. They are hanging on the back of a chair. Perhaps not everything is boring. He can hardly wait to go skating. Suddenly, Henry hears a low rumbling. It sounds like a train coming. His books bounce on the shelves as if they were alive. Henry has been through earthquakes before. He is not worried. The shaking stops for a moment. He takes a breath. The rumbling starts again. The bookcase tilts back and forth. The books fall. Thud, thud, thud. Henry's heavy oak bed hops with him. It skips like a grasshopper. He holds his dog tight. More books spill out of the bookcase. The chest of drawers dances a jig. The walls groan. The wooden floor ripples like waves of an ocean. Windows rattle. Doors thump in their frames. The whole house shakes like Sawyer when he has an itch. Plates crash in the kitchen below. Pitchers and then plaster drop from the wall. Old boards show through the gaps. Henry coughs in the growing cloud of dust. And still the shaking goes on. His bed and all his furniture circle in a slow waltz around the room. Then the window shatters. The shades flies up with a flap. The other houses in the neighborhood jerk about. Immediately across the street, the Smith house falls apart. Bricks rain on the ground. Dust rises and hides the street. From within the cloud, Henry hears a scream. His father bangs on the door. "Henry, Henry, are you all right?" he calls from the hallway. "Yes, how about you and Mama?" Henry asks. He stumbles out of bed. The floor shakes so much that he cannot stand. He crawls to the door. "We're fine, darling," his mother says. Henry tries to open the door, but it won't budge. The door is now crooked in the frame. "It's jammed," he says. "Don't worry," promises his father. "I'll get you out." He hears another rumble. There's a crash above him. He dodges when a chunk of the ceiling falls. Bricks shower down. They smash against the floor. Boards splinter and break. His father's voice calms him. "We'll get you out, Henry. I'm going to go get a crowbar." Henry clutches his pet. The crowbar scrapes at the doorframe. With a crack of wood, the door splinters and swings open. His father hugs him. "Thank heavens you're all right." His mother hugs him too. She cleans his face with her shawl. "You're all dusty." "So are you," Henry laughs with relief. The house rumbles dangerously as they head downstairs. The front door is jammed too. His father pries it open with his crowbar. At last, the door cracks off its hinges. Mr. Travis tugs the door open. They freeze in the doorway. Across the street, the front of the Smith's house has crumbled into the street. However, the rooms are still intact, which means they're still there. Trapped on the second floor, the Smiths are stunned. They stand stiffly, like Henry's cousin's doll in their toy house. An elderly couple, the Rossis, aren't so lucky. Their frame house down the block has collapsed on top of them. The whole street has split open. The cable car tracks have been twisted into strange shapes, like shining wire. Some houses tilt at odd angles. They look as if they are peering over someone's shoulders. The pipes under the street have broken. Water gushes out like a fountain. Henry squeezes his eyes shut, but when he opens them again, the nightmare is still there. Now stop the video and please answer the close reading questions throughout the story. Now I would like you to think about the story again and use your knowledge of earthquakes and natural disasters to answer the following questions. What clues did the story give us that an earthquake was happening? And why do you think the title of the story is The Earth Dragon Awakes? Now you may stop the video, and go back to your OneNote assignment and answer those two questions and submit the assignment.